Okay, guys, this is going to be a very deep disclosure. One of the most important disclosures in 5,000 years, maybe 6,000 years, because this has been a 5,000 to 6,000 year plan. That's why you need to pay attention to what's happening on mainstream media right now. First of all, you're all aware of the UFO disclosure that went worldwide. I want you to remember what was said. We don't know where they come from, inner space, outer space, or the space in between, because they come from different dimensions and parallel worlds. Now, I want you to listen very carefully and put all these pieces together. I just posted a video on the witness page last night. Now, this video is a story you've never heard. It's just been released, and it's on mainstream newspapers on the front pages, and you can read this story yourself on Google. So I want you to listen very carefully. This story goes deep. A whistleblower about the UFO. All the UFO and the vehicles, the off-road vehicles. Because, you know, Dr. Steer has also admitted that these vehicles are built by us. They're not from somewhere out of space. It's technology that we don't have. It's been used many times before in our human history. In the days of Atlantis. All the way back in the days of Atlantis, it happened as well, the same thing. I want you to pay undivided attention how things are and how things work around here. The video I've just put up on my timeline, it is about what you've never heard about UFOs. What you have never heard about UFOs, dated the 9th of the 6th, or 6th of the 9th in the American term, 2023. About parasites. Parasites, they're called body snatchers. Snatching people's body, and people die, and they take over their body. They call them the walking dead. I call them the inverted. On all my videos, I call them the inverted. That means they're opposite like us. And I've also disclosed a lot of information about these people are not human. They're not human. They're not human. Now, this is difficult to take on board, but when you consider all the information I've given you here for 3.5 years, I know about this. I know from genuine experience, wisdom, and knowledge. That's why my story in this particular video, it might be a little bit frightening, but you don't need to fear. I want you to listen to me. You do not need to fear. There's the reason why you're here. You're not one of them. And they can't get you. I want you to listen to me. They can't get you. Okay? But they're coming to take over every single person in the world, and it's already happening. It's already very deep. If you consider the video exposed the other day with the experts about the masses, and the majority out there are in a massive hypnotized, polarized state, as if they're possessed, as if they're hypnotized. We call them the walking dead. We call them zombies. You'll read a lot of things about the zombie virus that goes into our ancient history, and you'll see a lot of things on Google about all the zombie viruses right now that the scientists are frightening about. We can go into a lot of details about this. This whistleblower goes into the details that are very dramatic. That there's an alien race here, they're called the reptilians, living underground in underground tunnels. Consider how many underground tunnels, right, the militaries have. Consider the underground cities they have all over the world. There's more than 1,450 of them. Now, the whistleblower says these tunnels and these caves, a lot of them's been here for many, many thousands of years. I want to tell you something. In Cooper Pedy in Australia, there's a town called Cooper Pedy. It's an opal mine. Most people built their houses underground because of the heat there. You can Google and have a look at these homes that are built underground. These homes, right, believe it or not, are the most sophisticated homes in the world. Right? Now, we know from people building these homes underground We've read a lot of articles about this. These homes will last for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Nothing can deteriorate in these homes. Nothing can deteriorate underground in these homes. And many people in Cooper Pedy live underground like this. There's a reason why I'm telling you that. There's many stories, right, exposing, and also whistleblowers exposing that in the Atlantis, right, in the South Pole, they found not only underground tunnels, but a city, an underground city. This has been exposed before and taken down on social media platform. Okay? There's been a lot of exposure about this underground city that's very highly sophisticated. Now, the whistleblower that's come out, and this has hit some of the mainstream newspapers on the front page, okay? There's stories coming out about this, about parasites, body snatchers, body snatching, and people basically been taken over for many years all over the world. Now, I exposed a video last night, a very important video, about unique abilities. On YouTube, I'm going to put it in description link so you can watch this video I exposed last night. This is very important to all of you, okay? The video that I put up yesterday, made by Prophecy Watchers, he's reading the story directly from the newspaper and the exposure, what's being exposed here and why this person's not being killed, because now is the time that basically the Antichrist is going to let us know what's going on. They're going to tell the whole world through the UFO disclosure. They're going to tell everyone what's going on with the Looking Glass program and the time machine, which is sitting in the front of the Vatican. This is being exposed now. And I told you, I know about the Looking Glass and the paperclip program. I know more about this than most people do, and I've gone into the future and seen the future. I want you to listen very carefully. I was created like this from the day I was born, with many events before Bluetooth came in. I can guarantee you something. When you're involved with methamphetamine, you see parasites coming into people. You see how these parasites start to take over people's lives. I've known people that's died 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And I know how these parasites have been trying to take their life but can't succeed in some of these people. They've died and come back, but they can't succeed. The parasites cannot succeed in these people because these people are loving, compassionate human beings and genuine human beings. But those that are inverted the most, they can take over them so easy it's not funny. There are people that has a battle with these for many years. There are people that have battled a mental condition, a psychological warfare against their own spirit. Okay, that are battling these parasites that are crippling them. These parasites, there's reports all over the world about cancer and MS, multiple sclerosis, in fact being parasites taking over the spinal cord. That's what happens with MS disorders, taking over the spinal cord. If you listen to the parasite information that's come over the world, right, that you read everywhere, about parasites with MS disorders and with cancer, and you start putting the pieces together, right, with the parasites we're hearing about this, and also what we're seeing with mental disorders and gene defects going through the roof from 2% in 1960 to 54% by 2019, accelerating 7 times faster, and confirmed 3 months ago, it is in fact accelerating 7 times faster. Put all that together with gene defects, black clots, myocarditis, and have a look what we're watching all over the world today, the same type of parasites that takes over the spinal cord. In my opinion, it's the same thing we're watching, right? It's funny because people from morgues doing autopsies are coming out with reports with the same things. We've watched that on a lot of the media platforms. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I can only give you information that I hear. But when you start putting all these pieces together, and the voice in the mind ultimately designed for human extinction declared by Jeremy Griffiths and also happens to be written in the Bible, when you start putting all these pieces together, you're going to have a whole different perception. Now is the time to listen very carefully. In 2012, when I died, I know exactly how these body snatchers work because I went through that experience. That's why I urge you to watch these videos and understand that a lot of things about me was very unique before all these things came about. When I went to prison in 2000, Bluetooth was only just coming in. And I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm saying to you. Bluetooth was only just coming in, and some darkness took over the planet and was starting to come into the planet. A lot of things happened in 2012, 2013. A lot of people were diagnosed with MS disorders around that time. A hell of a lot of people, right, was diagnosed ever since Bluetooth came in. Most mental disorders was popping through the roof, and so was cancer defects ever since Bluetooth came in. Now, I've told you certain stories before, and I'm going to tell you a very dramatic story now. In 2012, when I died, okay, I want you to listen to me. We discovered I was living in a T-junction, and each way there's a telegraph pole, the closest telegraph pole in a triangular around my house on the corner of a T intersection. On each telegraph pole, we discovered, right, these telegraph poles were brand new telegraph poles in this neighborhood with brand new houses, and they had Bluetooth of every single telegraph pole that goes to your phone system, your normal ground phone. They don't have cords and lines anymore. This is the new system with landline telephones that goes to Bluetooth on a telegraph pole. When you get your phone and you go out there and you try to Bluetooth close to the telegraph pole, you come up with different networks, Bluetooth networks, right, and systems that you can, you know, whenever you Bluetooth something, it's like Wi-Fi. You come up with several things you can Bluetooth, like two other telephones or a computer. Or you can Bluetooth something, right? You know what I'm talking about? If you go to telegraph pole and you press the Bluetooth button to see which networks are available that you can tap into, on these three telegraph poles, and only these three telegraph poles, we did a survey around the neighborhood. Each one of these telegraph poles had surveillance 1, surveillance 2, and surveillance 3. When I died, I know for a fact, with information that I know about, through Bluetooth and through radio waves, how all these things work. Through NASA, through a system with a universal language with 200 frequencies. Each one has a personality. G1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can be congested without interfering with each other because they're universals and they're parallel worlds, right? Different dimensions where one dimension can be over-congested and can't affect the other, and it can be over-congested as well. But they cannot affect each other because they're different frequencies with different personalities. So Bluetooth has its own personality and its own frequency, and what happened to me that night with 3 people sitting next to me was all of a sudden, it's like something dark came over the top of me. And then I heard a voice from another dimension. A voice that sounded, and I'm going to say this, very deep, very authoritarian, right? And we can say that this was a reptilian voice. I'll tell you why. There's a story behind this. Because something happened to me on the phone one day. I made a video and this voice came through exactly the same, but it was growling like a monster, like something I've never heard that put chills up and down my spine. And it was like clicking in the voice, like a clicking voice. Like horrible. I could never make that kind of noise. It's the same voice I heard that night that told me this. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die, until I did, for 7 minutes. I have met people in the underground world that OD'd on drugs that heard exactly the same voice and exactly the same words before they died. That's how I know that I'm not alone here. I've run into quite a number of people that heard exactly the same thing, like a voice from another dimension, like it was coming through a tunnel. A very, very deep, sharp, and a type of voice you've never heard before in your life. So heavy on authoritarian, you know, that it puts chills down your spine. So much so that your body goes into shock, and my body went into shock as if I was being possessed. And then it came inside my body. I couldn't function. I couldn't say a word. It came inside and possessed my body, and in my mind, all I kept hearing from another dimension was, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, until I did. But before that happened, I started to walk out of my house and walk across the road and started to walk up the road, and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no control of myself. And then I was being pushed out of my body. I was being pushed out of my body, and I'm watching myself walking up the road. I'm still walking. I'm still walking, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here, man? Freaking me out. Nothing in the world that had ever prepared me for this. It happened twice. And the second time I went back in, and I must have been fighting it. I know I was fighting it. And then I ended up dropping dead because I battled it and I hung on. I woke up in the hospital 36 hours later. I was told I was paralyzed from my neck down. I never walk again. I walked out 45 minutes later. I went back knowing that something here wasn't right, something I'd never been prepared for in my life. And we did a survey on my phone to try and discover what the fuck happened here. And we found the telegraph poles with surveillance 1, 2, and 3. And then we found a modern gadget inside my house, a machine. One that I don't know nothing about. But I got the fuck out of that house. And I lived. But you see, I went through this experience with the body snatchers. And how they come inside you and take over your body. And they possess your body in ways you couldn't even begin to imagine. So frightening. Nothing in this world would prepare you for this moment. I can guarantee you that. But I went through this. But God prepared me for this moment. From the day I was born, He brought me through a certain process and created massive evidence before this happened for a reason. And you just need to have faith in what I'm saying to you. You see, I know people that's been possessed this way, and I know people that accepts this and died and never came back. Those people never came back and they became someone different, right? And let me tell you something. You know they're inverted completely and got no moral values by the way they behave and what they talk about. When you understand what's being said here by this UFO disclosure, and if you listen to what's being said on this video very carefully, you'll realize something. When you put that together with what they're saying about 93% of people are not human, if you listen to what they say about massive hypnotized state all over the world, the masses in a polarized state as if they have amnesia. If you understand how confused people are all over the world and how they conquer and divide and what's really happening, and you listen to this video, I've told you all the time who the think tank is, NASA, and what they're really up to. I've told you this time and time again and who they work for. And you can see that with the Working Class program and the time machine. But you know, I have to tell you something. There are laws of life. And when you listen carefully, there are specific laws of life they cannot intervene with, they cannot do anything about. So listen to me carefully. No weapon formed against you can prosper. It didn't prosper with me. It didn't prosper with me. Because you realize that God saves you here, right? And it's all about God and it's all about Jesus Christ. And believe it or not, it is. It's about you using your intuition, right? And having faith in your instincts to think instinctively and not think psychologically. That's what it's about. Those that have their intuition in the right place and those that use their principalities will have the power, right? And that's very important you know that. Right? It's very important you know that because everybody who's coming to me, I can guarantee you, you are the human. You're humans. You are the ones that are real. Okay? And, you know, it's a very few people, but, and you have to understand, this UFO disclosure really tells you why you're seeing the unethical, incompetent, right? And incompetent, unethical, and immoral decisions being made on every level in the world. Right? You understand everything about child sex offences everywhere. You'll understand everything about gay society going through the roof and all the inverted people. You'll understand everything about how people are possessed by the devil in every way, shape and form by listening to this video. A lot of people don't believe you can be possessed by the devil or have a voice in your mind that's ultimately designed for human extinction. Well, listen to me carefully. This is being disclosed in mainstream media because they want you to know now, and they've been hiding this from you for years. I work with the 2 top scientists from NASA that work with the top scientists from Hitler with methamphetamine, which is mRNA technology, and it's all about mRNA technology. And it goes into magic potion from the days of Noah. How the devil gets inside you and possesses you with different frequencies, Different power when you're not tapped in with your own 8 frequencies and the tools of frequencies we call the righteous tools. When you don't live by them and you live by every other inverted tool, you have an outside influence in your reality which becomes the parasites that possesses your body. And it's real. Jeremy Clifford declared, the voice of ultimate time human extinction. In prison, there are people in prison everywhere in the world that kills because the voices tells them to. And they're the most coldest human beings you'll ever come across. Child sex offenders and most gay people have no moral values. We can see that in study reports done in the biggest mental health research. They have no moral values, man. Child sex offenders, atheists that comes to prison, they can't address their moral values and moral behavior because they're not human. Because they're actually not human. We started to discover this from 2000 onwards. That's when Bluetooth come in. When I was in prison for 10 years and sat in a time where time stands still in the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history, when I walked out of prison, everybody was inverted. I had 100 mates that I had faith and trust in, and when I came out, I didn't even have 2. My family, lovers and friends were dividing with psychological mental behavior, and family values was crashing all over the world. All moral values were gone in that decade from between 2000 and 2010. Nobody believes in it. Well, they're not qualified, are they? They're not human. MS disorders was coming through the roof as parasites was taking over people. You can go and read all the documents, right? Same with ADHD, mental disorders. All these things have been escalating out of control since around 1999, just like it's recorded in the documents by the biggest think tank in the world, which is that mental health research, which is the IPP science reports that says we're in post-human states, no longer human, and we can't think straight. And it says, loud and clear, the last human being born that can think straight with their human instincts was born in the outback of Australia. And there's only a handful of human beings left on Earth that can. The last human beings born on Earth. Everybody else is a post-human, no longer productive, no longer moral values in the right place because they twist the fabric of truth and normalise what was moral yesterday non-stop and go through the same revolving door. Jeremy Clifford is a top biologist, studied played in the human condition for 45 years, and the human conditioning is the same parasites that possess people. And it's happening on a global scale, for God's sake. And the top biologists have declared this as the primary problem for climate. And who's telling you that? Nobody. Because the government suppress it, because they're controlled by what we call the real society. The real society. That's in biblical history. It's written on documents. You can read about the real society. The real society. That's the inverted people. That are people that are reptilian. That's the Netherlands from the days of Noah. The Netherlands that are totally inverted, that uses progenic genes, such as people I've mentioned to you in a lot of my videos, that uses these progenic genes that become masterminds at 24 and takes over the planet. And one of these people that could do this, that became the richest man in the world by 24, was Bill Gates, without any university or any education whatsoever. He was illiterate. I've gone into a lot of details about this, about these people that's introduced these things all over the world and controls things. That's what we have to understand. You really do. And I know it's frightening, but listen to me. I have genuine experience with my knowledge. I had a body snatcher come into my body from another dimension. Right? I know exactly what it feels like and takes over your body and possesses you. But you see, they can't possess a righteous person. I was set up like this by the military, by the biggest think tank in the world when I became the most compromising situation. They set me up for this, like they did with a lot of people in the underground world, because we have abilities, and I was highly intelligent, recorded by the biggest think tank already by 1999. That's why they tried to put me into this, to possess me, because I'd be of great value to them. But it didn't happen, and it frightened them. And then God created the most powerful evidence in modern history against the AI system. And you have to have faith in me. These parasites, I know it goes into people's bodies, and people on methamphetamine, right, like New Earth, okay? When we talk about Sasha Stone and a lot of these people, they talk about parasites being under people's skin, right? They call them like wires, like some sort of wire mechanism. Doctors has been looking at these parasites all over the world, don't know what they are. They've never seen them before in human history. Okay? You see it a lot in methamphetamine because it's mRNA technology, how they get these parasites everywhere. The same thing that they talk about, and they don't know what they are. They call them melanoma or something like that, melanins, right? There's been a lot of study done on this, a lot of research done on this as well, but no one knows what they are. The same parasite, melanins or something. These could be the same parasites in cancer that's gone through the roof. It's gone up 18 times in the same 25 years, 24 years, 18 times. These parasites, same with MS breaking down everywhere all over the world, and mental disorders. These parasites are coming into people, and people are having a battle with them, right, with MS disorders, but it doesn't mean they're evil. You have to understand something, guys. It's in the name of Jesus Christ. It's the name of God, right, that you conquer this. And that's what I want to tell you. If you have any of these parasite problems whatsoever, it's in the name of Jesus Christ that's going to save you, believe it or not. Trust me, I know. I never went to any church, never read a Bible, and I was never religious in any way, shape, or form. I never believed in God, but I never disbelieved. But I always followed the Father's voice without even realizing it, because I always followed my instincts that gave me the picture that tells me 1,000 words from the outside influence. And that's why I was so clever, because I didn't think psychologically and mentally. So I was always listening to the right voice without realizing it, because it's not a voice. It's a picture that tells you 1,000 words. It's an outside influence in your reality. Okay, that you can respond to 7 times faster with your instincts, with your intuition. And that's why I went through the death experience and beat it. Okay, and I can go into a lot of details about a lot of friends of mine who died and had exactly the same thing happen. And when I was in the biggest mental health research in prison, I was one-on-one doing a survey and a very depth investigation into the people that kills when the voice tells them to. Because that's how they created the kamikaze with meth. In 1895, that's how they created the most evil suicide squad in the world, who would kill and take their own life to take yours when the voice tells them to. When you understand that, Hitler used it in the army. Hitler created a paperclip program, the time machine, and flying vessels. And then Harari tells us on the mainstream media today they're going to take free will away and do what Hitler tried to create. With mRNA technology, and they're going to create great gods, and they have the divine power, creation, and destruction. Do you actually listen to me? Because it's all about mRNA technology, and the experiment happens to be registered by DARPA and biotech, the military. There's no secrets about that. It's an experiment. It's registered by DARPA and biotech. And I just find that astonishing. And I'm not here to give any misinformation. There's no secrets about this. And, you know, when we look at things about cell study and cellular study research, and all the information they give you about cellular study research in our body cells going in corruption, coercion, collusion, you can see it right here. And you can go and get your DNA test in any Unifed store anywhere in the world where they can repair your DNA. That's interesting, right? You strip from your sixth sense and you're oblivious to all these things. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. You know, my wife's in hospital right now with an MS attack, and I know it's parasites. It doesn't mean she's evil. It means she's going through one hell of a battle. And I can see she's got 2 personalities all the time. She's the most beautiful, loving person in the world that's always believed in God, and the most emotional child and the most innocent person I've ever met in my life. But then there's this other side of her, right, with her forefather's footsteps, that is a parasite. A parasite that's crippling her spine. So I know. But I also know how to cure these things. I know how to get that parasite out of people. Because believe me, when you think instinctively with your natural organic motor skills, and you think with your intuition, it can't exist inside you, and it vacates. It can't exist inside you in the name of Jesus and being in the image of the Father's image, and the Father inside you with the Holy Spirit. That's how you get saved around here. That's why you must resurrect back in your primal state, right? In the very image you're created in, because it can't get you, right? There's certain laws to life, and those laws is what's going to save you by living by them. Trust me, I know. But you have to take this very serious on board, whether you like it or not. It may be very uncomfortable for you, but it's what's happening all over the world. And there's a lot of different explanations and a lot of things being told all over the world with whistleblowers everywhere that all puts the same pieces together. But a lot more dramatic. But no one comes with all the information that I do because I have the experience, wisdom, and knowledge. I was possessed by the devil. I was possessed by this entity. I had this entity come inside my body and push my soul out of my body, and I'm watching myself walk up the road. I didn't drop dead. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? Nothing in the world ever prepared for me for this. But my body was being snatched, and I got kicked out of my own body, and I had to go back in and fight that specimen. I had to fight that thing that came inside my body, and it was the most aggressive things that I'd ever heard. It was the most authoritarian thing coming from another dimension that scared the living shit out of me. And believe me, it was a boogeyman that you're introduced to at 2 years old on a nightly basis, scares the living shit out of you. And your mum and dad says it's a dream to go back to sleep. It's a boogeyman. It's how boogeyman works. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Believe me, I know these things. Okay? They're using different parallel worlds and different dimensions and different magnetic fields and different frequencies, right? From the fifth dimension downwards, light, power, deceiving, and demonic, to enter these things inside people by using frequencies and using Bluetooth and using all these modern gadgets. That's why people get polarized with modern gadgets and telephones and think it's their best friend because they have a relationship with the phone. And they don't have a relationship with people. Most people have a relationship with the phone and love the phone and think the phone's the best friend more than people, more than life itself, and all the genuine, real loyalty, honor, respect, moral, remorse, inspiration, encouragement. They pretend they're living in it. They pretend they're humans. They act like they're humans and they believe in different systems, but they always conquer and divide as well, and they don't have their moral values in the right place. And that's the majority of people all over the world that's so confused about these things with all new belief systems and all new scientific theories, not facts. And I know it's difficult, guys, but you have nothing to fear. You have nothing to fear. Trust me on this. Those who think instinctively will tune out of the program. They made that statement in the Matrix movie. The black goo is what possesses people, right? The black goo is what takes over people and they become the walking dead, the zombies all over the world. And that's what you're dealing with. But they think they're humans, but you know they're very cold and you know they're spineless. And Jacob's ladder doesn't work because your spine is a shiver in your spine with your gut feeling survival mode that makes you alert, alive, wake and aware with the meth effect with your adrenochrome intact. They can't use none of these tools, guys. Most people in the world can't. Right? And I want you to listen to something, right? It doesn't mean, well, you have to understand, their bodies are snatched by 200 different angels, right? By 200 different personalities. And they come across like heavenly, they come across like loving, compassionate people as well. And they can deceive so many people in the world to believe in so many new things with light power, right? Light energy and power, fifth dimensional thinking, galaxy federations, star seeds, all this BS, man. The fallen angels were star seeds from Palladium, from the galaxy federation of Palladiums. They were the fallen angels, man. They are the 200 entities that can't get out of this dimension. That's why the fifth dimension and down, it's light, power, deceiving, and demonic with 200 frequencies that controls every single person with parasites. Parasites inside their bodies. This is coming out not only in autopsies all over the world, right, and different types of whistleblowers with metalloleums and methamphetamine, but it's also coming out right now in the UFO disclosure, how these parasites and how they had permission and made exchanges with the governments, where the government's got technology and the power to take over the world, right, in many different aspects, and given the power to build off-road vehicles, UFOs, all these sorts of things, in exchange for letting them take over people all over the world with their parasites. Alien abduction, they call it, right? People being abducted. It's deeper than that, guys. It's a lot deeper than this. It's so much more deeper, you've got no idea. So as a person who's gone through this, and God put me through this path so I would know this, how these things will stop men's hearts. That's written in the Bible, right? That these things will stop men's hearts. And people's going to turn into be like zombies, and they're going to wish they were dead for 1,000 years. They're going to wish they were dead for 1,000 years because they didn't believe. And those that believe, they will not have a death experience. Those that believe will not have a death experience, and they will escape the reincarnation trap that everybody else will go into. Everyone else will be possessed by the devil, by these entities. with an outside influence. So first they program you to think of reverse psychology with a high IQ that makes you unintelligent and think you're really good at everything, right? Very unintelligent, but you be good at what you do with a high IQ. That's an artificial way of thinking to strip you from your sixth sense. Then you have an outside influence when you think critically with a voice in your mind that's ultimately sign from your extinction, which is an alien invasion, right? An outside influence your reality from five senses, because you think with five senses all the time. First they program people to do like this, right? And completely stripped from their sixth sense and their intuition to use their instincts to think instinctively, completely stripped from that. So they think psychologically and mentally, and then they get possessed by the devil with an outside influence, the alien invasion, because it's artificial intelligence when you think artificially and you don't think naturally and organically with your natural organic motor skills. So you think unnaturally, which is an artificial intelligence, because high IQ makes you damn good at what you do, but not intelligent. So it's artificial intelligence. And then you're possessed by the devil with a voice in your mind that you always follow with your forefathers' footsteps. And you think you're intelligent and talking to someone heavenly, which is an outside influence, because God does not talk to you. He comes through in visions and dreams with a picture that tells you 1,000 words that you can respond to 10 times faster, because a vision cannot lie to you. That's why the voice does. And that voice came into my mind, possessed me so bad that I died and took over my body, the body snatchers. And they're real, man. I know a lot of people have gone through this and heard the same thing and gone through the same experience. And that's happening to people all over the world. We see most people get possessed by the devil. And in prison, going through the roof everywhere, in every prison system in the world, people are in prison because they do things what the voice tells them to do, and it's recorded in courts. They kill satanically and very violently because the voice tells them to in the mind. So they do what the voice tells them. And what did I tell you? Those that don't comply will die. Right? The voice will tell people that they're going to die when they don't comply, but that's how the voice comes in to kill them, and then they take over their body. And they try to do that with me, but it didn't work. It didn't work because they push you out. They push your soul out and take over your body and keep on walking so you don't die. So your body don't die. And that's what these people went through that I know about, right? The same thing happened to them. They got pushed out of their body when the voice came into the mind and told them they were going to die. They were going to die until they did, right? Well, the only reason they died was because the voice, right, could not take over their body. Because you get pushed your soul out and you can see yourself walking up the road and that body snatcher's walking away with your body. And that's how it takes over people all over the world. And nobody knows. No one knows this. But when it happens to you, you can see it happening with your own two eyes. And I know a lot of people that this has happened to. But you see, we battle. We battle against the monster itself and come back inside our body, and that's when we die. That's when we die. And then we wake up because God puts us through this path. Right? And then we wake up and we were not possessed by the devil, but he gave it his best go. Those parasites came inside us and took our body and body snatched us. But we had the power to go back inside, and that's when we drop. These people that get possessed like this do not drop. They get pushed out and don't have the power to fight back. So that body just keeps on walking, man. And that's how people have been possessed by the devil all over the world. Through psyop programs, through reverse psychology, through mRNA technology, through Bluetooth, through all these modern gadgets, with a personality. With a personality. And I know it's dramatic, but believe me, this thing that I'm listening to on this video about what you've never heard about the UFO, what you never heard about UFOs, when I hear this story from the whistleblower, I can confirm with many people that I've spoken to and done research, and the biggest mental health research, and people who's died and come back that's gone through the same experiences, and the experiences that I've gone through, and what I've studied with MS, multiple sclerosis with, for the last 3.5 years, I know that what he is saying is right smack bang on the money. This is how the devil's taking over the planet, man. This is how the fallen angels work. This is how these reptilian Netherlands, right, that are still here works. Believe me, right now is the time that you want to pay attention to all my videos and how to escape this. How to go back to your natural environment. How to live by the Vineyard Rule equally. How to use your natural motor skills in your primal state. You need to wake up to these things and understand what's happening all over the world, because it's going to answer a lot of questions about what's happening all over the world now. You see, the Antichrist is going to tell us what's going on. What's going to happen next over the next 3.5 years is going to be phenomenal, right? Now, this exposure right now with this UFO exposure and these parasites taking over people all over the world and the massive polarized, hypnotized state all over the world, this is right now in the very time of 3.5 years before 227, right? When everything gets exposed about that, the Antichrist is going to take over the world, and it's already been exposed through Harari, right? The fourth industrial revolution, the architect, that they're going to create great gods and that divine power, creation, destruction. And also Klaus Schwab says the same thing. And Elon Musk has talked about the guy from Google, the CEO for Bill Gates, and Google's quantum computer is in NSA. NSA is in Pine Gap, Area 51 in Australia, 56 floors under the ground, massive tunnels and massive city under the ground. So that's where they're located, right? And what I'm telling you right now is something very specific. As Elon Musk says, the person who's in charge of the quantum computer with NSA in Pine Gap, Australia, said, we're going to create great gods. The same thing. That's what the CERN machine's for, and that's why they've got Shibi out the front. And that's what the time machine's all about, sitting in front of the Vatican. And the Vatican just signed 27 religions all over the world in with the WF. So they're all controlled by the real civilization, the real civilization. And that's all the fallen angels, guys. That's all the Netherlands. And now we know with evidence, rock solid evidence, that this is being exposed all over the world. So now is the time where you need to wake up and understand this is the last 3.5 years, believe me, where you got to get it right. So watch my videos and pay attention to every single thing I teach you and practice what I preach, so you go back to your primal state and stay in the image that you're created in, right? Because you need to activate and you need to be reborn, guys. And remember what I said to you. This is the only thing in the world that's going to save you. Trust me on that. Okay? Only a handful of people really knows these things. So you have to pay attention, guys, and do not be afraid. But this is what's happening all over the world. This is how the AI world works. The AI world was always the Antichrist. An alien invasion. Okay? And an artificial insemination, because we've had one. And that's what's happening here. An artificial insemination is being possessed by the devil, by these parasites. And they're parasites, guys. They're parasites that come inside you and take over your central nervous system, right? And your neuro tree of life that goes into your spinal cord and possesses you in ways that we don't understand. But there's already evidence of this all over the world, okay? So I'm telling you right now, the reason it's on the front page of these papers and why this video is even on YouTube is because it's real. They're not taking these things down because it's being exposed. The truth, okay? So I hope you're going to pay attention to the video I made yesterday about unique abilities on Facebook and listen very carefully. And then listen to this video about what you've never heard about UFOs. What you have not heard that's being exposed right now all over the world. Okay, there's a lot of exposures about these parasites and about these things, right? Like a tree that comes inside you and goes through your eyeball, inside your brain, takes over your brain and goes down your spinal cord. And most people in the world are possessed by it. Trust me on this, right? Every document in the whole world about the post-human stage and Jeremy Griffiths and the top bowlers in the whole world all matches together with this. Every single thing does to be used, every piece, and put together correctly. So now's the time to have faith in me, guys. Trust me, because nobody else in the world is exposing all the bits and pieces together with the top bowlers and scientists in the world, right? And the top of whistleblowers and the top elect chosen, right? And the elect are the ones that escape this the most. The ones that have that wisdom. We know about these things, guys. That's why we can save you.